Now, Margherita Cumani from Hera. Hera is a multi-utility from Italy. Now she will say more words about it. And also with University, we started a collaboration with it about the team of energy efficiency industry. So, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Simone. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Margherita Cumani. I come from Italy and I work for a company which is a leading company in multi-utility in Italy. The purpose of this presentation is somehow giving you an insight of energy efficiency in the industrial sector, and in doing that I will try to explain how a company like us, which is kind of peculiar because we are not an ESCO, I should say we are not only an ESCO, but mainly we are a utility providing public services. So how we managed to have a central role in promoting energy efficiency towards industrial operator. We talked a lot this morning about policymakers, recommendation for policymakers. Now the point of view is the one of an operator who is affected by policies and regulation and try to take out the best of them. We also had a role in the University project, as he said, and I'll tell you a bit about something about it. So, Hera Group, I put here three expressions that I really like because somehow they include where we come from and where we're going to. So, strong local roots, activity for innovation, and independent management. Hera was the first national experiment of combination of council-owned companies into a single multi-utility, and that was like in this way was able to make industry from public services. The blue one, the little blue one, was our territorial border at the very beginning. This is how it looked like today, after a constant and balanced growth in the last decade, 15 years, I should say. I said public services, energy services, gas and electricity, water services like sewage water and drinking water, waste management services. We don't have time to go through all these numbers, but I'd like to draw your attention on one of them, which is this one here, the blue one for water. 35,000 kilometers of drinking water network served. 35,000 is like twice the distance between Rome and Sydney. So I think it gives the order of magnitude of like the territorial occupation of our company. Also, remaining at a high level and because of the nature of our company, very important for us is creating shared value, share with investors, share with citizens, share with government. And so we very soon realized that in doing this, we were contributing to 10 over 17 targets of the global agenda. And interesting thing to say today is that 6 of them are covered by energy efficiency strategy. So I think this is quite interesting for today's venue. And the natural consequence of all this principle, it's circular economy, and it's something to do with what Miles told us today about the change in managing, for example, plastics, wastes and recycling and so on. So our commitment on this topic is very high. Last year we entered the CE100 program of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and we're proud to say that the only other company entered the program in 2017 was Microsoft. We obviously is another order of magnitude, but still it gives the idea of the commitment. So tackling the topic of interest, in energy efficiency in industrial sector, we can, if we look at the last 10 years, we can see positive elements. And for positive elements, I mean pushing energy efficiency, which is energy efficiency directive obligations, energy audit compulsory for large enterprises and so on, presence of subsidies, mainly white certificate as we will see, specialization of ESCOs was a pushing element. And also huge energy saving potential. That's very clear because of technological opportunity and also the absolute value of consumption very high. However, as someone else has already said, there are still technical and economical barriers preventing the broad development of energy efficiency. So we really very soon realized that we needed to have a comprehensive approach, very well structured. And also, we can't really talk about industrial sector in Italy without talking about water certificates, because they've been definitely the main driver for this sector in our country, along with high cost of electricity or gas, but mainly it was water certificates, in our opinion. And that happened because water certificates have been able to foster many synergies among operators. In this schematic you can see like a representation of the synergies. You know, at the base we've got obliged subject that must meet a savings target, and they can purchase them on the market or originate them through savings initiatives. And in doing this, they interact with industrial final consumers and with ESCO. ESCO on the other side had the opportunity to specialize themselves a lot in this year, thanks to this mechanism. They had the opportunity to do trading on the market and so to grow on this point of view as well. And so in the whole structure, it was very successful for us, the best practice in Europe. So what about us? We have a role in this mechanism. We are obliged subject, so we are obliged to have a role in it. And of the two options, purchasing or originating, we invested a lot in originating. So we put a lot of efforts in to implement energy saving project. And how do you do that? We didn't choose to outsource these competencies. We didn't choose that. On the contrary, we invested a lot of human and economical resources growing the inside competencies. We do have a department called Energy Management, where I and my colleague belong to, and that is increased twice in the last 6 years, right, because there was a great need of increasing competencies, and doing it internally allowed the combination with new competencies with the historical experiences we have, because we are a utility. We have always managed public plants, water plants, cogeneration plants, district plants. So there was a combination that was effective and allowed us to develop a set of energy saving services that was actually applicable also outside our assets. And the other result is that we managed to transform an obligation into a business opportunity. And that was very uncommon for utility. Many utility like us purchased on the market the whole amount of certificates they needed. It was more like an ESCO, but we think our role was more like the regulator thought about it at the very beginning. So our strategy, going a little bit inside it, it's toward our assets, so we try to get the best of our plants. We did the certification management systems, and also we committed ourselves in the annual report about energy. Toward external operator, we engage with industries to develop energy saving project. And going a little bit deeper, this schematic represents the key strategy we implemented, and I think it's maybe the most important slide of the presentation. Like, we started from local synergies that were necessary for overcome the knowledge informative barrier and to gain the trust. So we invested every year resources in informative campaign, workshops, seminars, and we did it like with social, not with local stakeholder, with industrial association mainly. Then cross competencies. You do need to have cross competencies to face this sector. You need to be technologically neutral, at least at the beginning. Otherwise, it's too wide. You can't cover it. And in this way, you are a strong interlocutor. Then we have stipulated partnership with technology specialists and provider, because after the scouting of an initiative, you have to go deeper in it, and you have to develop specialistic analysis from the very beginning. And again, and furthermore, our approach was very participative, because like industrial operators are very well acquainted about their plans, so involving them in the project development was a key aspect, because it increased commitment and cooperation. And again, the last and very important thing, it was financial solidity. Our company is big, and for us it was possible to guarantee the access to the water certificate mechanism on a no-fee basis for industry. So we took the risk, and they could access the mechanism without any cost. So you can see a pyramid of our services, and I won't go through them. I will just say that water certificates were able to make bankable project, because they are able to reduce significantly the payback time of project, and we took advantage of it. So Hera assumes the risk, as you can read, and industry do not take any cost until the project is bankable and well developed. Our result: more than 160 projects for 150,000 tons of oil equivalent saved, and also we've been cited in an IEA report in 2013. Here an example which is interesting, application of a food and chemical industry, and interesting because in this case we followed all the pathway with the industry. So we did an energy audit which identified an opportunity. This opportunity had an initial payback time of 6-7 years, which meant, okay, stop, we won't do it. And then we presented the request for a white certificate. We had it approved after some struggling, but we had it approved, and after that the payback has been so much reduced, you will see how much, that the industrial management decided to implement the project. We're talking about an industrial application of heat pumps, which in our opinion is quite a potential application. And in this case, the energy audits showed that there was an available stream of heat wasted in the cooling tower, which is big in quantity, which was quite low in temperature. So the current technology in heat pump allowed to use that stream to produce hot water to 60 up to 90 degrees. So for processes demand, there was processes demand, so that was a good solution. Here you can see a schematic where a chart where it's very clear the reduction of discounted payback period. So it was 6 to 7 years at the beginning, it became 2 to 3 years with incentives, so very effective. Last part is our role in UMC project. As you may have understood at this point of the presentation, we, in reason of our experience in industries, we played a role in validation of KPIs, validation, and maybe our activity was complementary with the one Maurizio told us, because maybe they did like a qualitative validation. We did it more like a quantitativity validation. We focused on KPIs, on the numbers. We evaluated 19 projects, 9 good practices sheets, belonging to 7 sectors. You can see them there. And the main projects are the most common we've found in industry we are partnered with. So what are the outcomes and the results? Well, the validation showed outcome positive for the majority of cases. In particular, initial cost and cumulative cash flow were the best, the one who with best alignment. Also, it was easier to validate good practices created from a bigger sample of project. That might be obvious, but the number of occurrences was kind of a very strong indicator on the solidity of the good practice. And also, the KPIs for good practices, the more solid KPIs show to be the one for the good practices that have energy saving management methods more homogeneous and easier. For example, heat recovery. For heat recovery, you just put on the water side flow instrument, flow measurement instrument, and 2 temperature instrument, and you're done with measurements. So that was kind of a transversal, easy, and homogeneous method of evaluation. So that was easier. For further analysis, we found that sometimes payback periods were too low, especially for those good practices in refrigeration plant and mechanical vapor recompression, because they're kind of structural projects, and for what is our experience, they're too low. The order of magnitude was 1 year, less than 1 year. In our opinion, it's too low, so maybe it deserves further analysis. And also, we found some differences in annual savings, especially in those good practices that includes differences, different typologies of projects. For example, the good practice number 113, I reckon, was boiler one, and it includes like the variable speed driver for exhausters, as well as like the economizer for increasing the recovery. So they're very different, but the proposed range was only one, and it's difficult to understand what was really representative for. Conclusion. Our strategy really aimed at playing a central role in promoting energy efficiency inside our company, in our asset, but also towards industrial operator. And what we found the winning point is territorial synergies, cross competencies, and financial solidity. That's what industries need from us, at least, we reckon. Why certificates in Italy has been crucial, has been the main driver, because it was broadly applicable and it could reduce significantly the payback time. UNC KPIs were more solid for good practices with homogeneous energy savings evaluation methods and with wider sample of cases. And the last one, sometime payback period of structural project seemed too low to us, but we'll be happy to participate in further analysis to go deeper. Thank you.